Good evening. Hi. Welcome back to another story time. And this evening, we're going to be sharing the story, The Golden Bird. And it's going to be in two parts. So this evening will be part one of The Golden Bird. The Golden Bird is a Grimm's fairy tale, and it was collected and presented by Jacob and Wilhelm Grimm, and is read to you tonight by yours truly, Tennille Milam. This story is not intended for children. So, part one of The Golden Bird. Be sure and get all comfy, everybody. Have a little coffee and snuggle down. And we'll enjoy part one of The Golden Bird. In times gone by, there was a king who had at the back of his castle a beautiful pleasure garden, in which stood a tree that bore golden apples. As the apples ripened, they were counted, but one morning one was missing. Then the king was angry, and he ordered that a watch should be kept about the tree every night. Now the king had 3 sons, and he sent the eldest to spend the whole night in the garden. So he watched till midnight, and then he could keep sleep off no longer, and in the morning an apple was missing. The second son had to do the watch the following night, but it fared no better, for when 12 o'clock had struck, he went to sleep, and in the morning another apple was missing. Now came the turn of the third son to watch, and he was ready to do so. But the king had less trust in him, and he believed he would acquit himself still worse than his brothers. But in the end, he consented to let him try. So the young man lay down under the tree to watch, and resolved that sleep should not be the master. When it struck 12, something came rushing through the air, and he saw in the moonlight a bird flying towards him, whose feathers glittered like gold. The bird perched upon the tree, and had already pecked off an apple, when the young man let fly an arrow at it. The bird flew away, but the arrow had struck its plumage, and one of its golden feathers fell to the ground. The young man picked it up, and taking it next morning to the king, he told him what had happened in the night. The king called his council together, and all declared that such a feather was worth more than the whole kingdom. "Since the feather is so valuable," said the king, "one is not enough for me. I must and will have the whole bird." So the eldest son set off, and relying on his own cleverness, he thought he should soon find the golden bird. When he had gone some distance, he saw a fox sitting at the edge of a wood, and he pointed his gun at him. But the fox cried out, "Do not shoot me, and I will give you good counsel. You are on your way to find the golden bird, and this evening you will come to a village in which there are 2 taverns, and they are facing each other. One will be brightly lighted up, and there will be plenty of merriment going on inside. Do not mind about that. But go into the other one, although it will look to you very uninviting." "How can a silly beast give anyone any rational advice?" thought the king's son, and he let fly at the fox. But he missed him, and he stretched out his tail, and he ran quick into the wood. Then the young man went on his way, and towards evening he came to the village, and there stood the 2 taverns. In one, singing and dancing was going on. The other looked quite dull and wretched. "I should be a fool," said he, "to go into that dismal place while there is anything so good close by." So he went into the Merry Inn, and There lived in clover, quite forgetting the bird and his father and all good counsel. As time went on and the eldest son never came home, the second son set out to seek the golden bird. He met with the fox, just as the eldest did, and he received good advice from him without attending to it. And when he came to the two taverns, his brother was standing and calling to him at the window of one of them, out of which came sounds of merriment. So he could not resist, but he went in and he reveled to his heart's content. And then, as time went on, the youngest son wished to go forth and to try his luck, but the father would not consent. It would be useless, said he. He is much less likely to find the bird than his brothers, and if any misfortune were to happen to him, he would not know how to help himself. His wits are none of the best. But at last, as there was no peace to be had, he let him go. By the side of the wood sat the fox, begged him to spare his life, and gave him good counsel. The young man was kind, and he said, "Be easy, little fox, I will do you no harm." "You shall not repent of it," answered the fox, "and that you may get there all the sooner, get up and sit upon my tail." And no sooner had he done so than the fox began to run, and off they went over stock and stone, so that the wind whistled in their hair. When they reached the village, the young man got down, and following the fox's advice, he went into the mean-looking tavern without hesitating, and there he passed a quiet night. The next morning, when he went out into the field, the fox, who was sitting there already, said, "I will tell you further what you have to do. Go straight on until you come to a castle, before which a great band of soldiers lie. But do not trouble yourself about them, for they will be asleep and snoring. Pass through them and forward into the castle. Go through all of the rooms until you come to one where there is a golden bird hanging in a wooden cage. Near at hand will stand an empty golden cage of state. But you must beware of taking the bird out of its ugly cage and putting him into the fine one. If you do so, harm will come to you." After he had finished saying this, the fox stretched out his tail again, and the king's son sat down upon it. Then away they went over stock and stone, so that the wind whistled through their hair. And when the king's son reached the castle, he found everything as the fox had said, and at last entered the room where the golden bird was hanging in a wooden cage, while a golden one was standing by. The 3 golden apples too were in the room. Then, thinking it foolish to let the beautiful bird stay in that mean and ugly cage, he opened the door of it, took hold of it, and put it in the golden one. In the same moment, the bird uttered a piercing cry. The soldiers awakened, rushed in, seized the king's son, and put him into prison. The next morning, he was brought before a judge, and as he confessed everything, condemned to death. But the king said he would spare his life on one condition, that he should bring him the golden horse, whose paces were swifter than the wind, and that then he should also receive the golden bird as a reward. So the king's son set off to find the golden horse. But he sighed, and he was very sad, for how should it be accomplished? And then he saw his old friend the fox sitting by the roadside. "Now you see," said the fox, "all this has happened because you would not listen to me. Be of good courage. I will bring you through, and I will tell you what you are to do to get the golden horse. You must go straight on until you come to a castle, where the horse stands in his stable. Before the stable door, the grooms will be lying, but they will all be asleep and snoring, and you can go and quietly lead out the horse. But one thing you must mind. Take care to put upon him the plain saddle of wood and leather, and not the golden one which will be hanging close by. Otherwise, it will go badly with you." Then the fox stretched out his tail, and the king's son seated himself upon it, and away they went over stock and stone, while the wind whistled through their hair. And everything happened just as the fox had said. And he came to the stall where the golden horse was. And as he was about to put on him the plain saddle, he thought to himself, "Such a beautiful animal would be a disgrace were I not to put upon him the good saddle, which becomes him so well." However, no sooner did the horse feel the golden saddle touch him than he began to neigh. And the grooms all awoke and seized the king's son and threw him into prison. The next morning he was delivered up to justice and condemned to death. But the king promised him his life, and also to bestow upon him the golden horse, if he could convey thither the beautiful princess of the golden castle. With a heavy heart the king's son set out, but by great good luck he soon met with the faithful fox. "I ought to leave you now to your own ill luck," said the fox, "but I am sorry for you, and will once more help you in your need. Your way lies straight up to the golden castle. You will arrive there in the evening, and at night, when all is quiet, the beautiful princess goes to bath. As she is entering the bathing house, go up to her and give her a kiss, and then she will follow you, and you can lead her away. But do not suffer her first to go and take leave of her parents, or it will go ill with you." That is the end of part 1. And I hope you will join me on the next story time for part 2. And until then, thank you, and y'all be sweet.